Hey all, I'm Glenn Kirshner, former career federal prosecutor, former Army JAG, and I've been trying to make a series of YouTube videos talking about sort of the consequences of the Donald Trump era and how we're going to contend with it once he is voted out of office and we find ourselves in a position having to rebuild our government, having to reform the way we do business, and most importantly, holding accountable all of the corrupt politicians that have been running wild for the past three and a half years. So today I want to talk a little bit about the unique danger presented by the combination of Donald Trump and Bill Barr, the combination of a criminal, corrupt, and abusive president as enabled and protected by a corrupt attorney general. The founding fathers obviously contemplated a corrupt president because they included the impeachment clause in the Constitution. They obviously envisioned potentially corrupt cabinet members because cabinet members can be impeached as well. We have to wonder, though, if they ever contemplated a corrupt president who would be enabled by a corrupt attorney general, making the work of sort of addressing that crime, that corruption, and dislodging those dishonest politicians all the tougher. But let me talk for a few minutes about what I see to be the unique challenge presented by that sort of corrupt tandem of president and attorney general. And let me use one of Trump's most obvious and easily proven crimes that we've seen, bribery, specifically his interaction with President Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, as captured on that summary of the phone call that we have now heard about and perhaps read over and over again. What we had was President Trump holding on to congressionally appropriated money that was supposed to go to Ukraine so Ukraine could defend itself against unlawful Russian aggression. In a very real sense, that money was allocated by Congress to go to the Ukraine to save Ukrainian lives and to protect what we perceive to be the United States' interest in the Ukraine. President Trump held on to that money. He had no right to. And he told President Zelensky, oh, you want this money? You want to be able to use this congressionally appropriated money to defend yourself and your country? I need a favor, though. And in substance, what Donald Trump said was, I want you to announce a bogus investigation into my political opponent, Joe Biden, and his son, Hunter Biden. That's soliciting a bribe, plain and simple, ladies and gentlemen. And let me use a simple everyday example to highlight why that's bribery, or more specifically, soliciting a bribe. Let's assume that I wanted to build a deck on my house. And so I go down to my county zoning office and I talk to the county zoning commissioner. And I say, hey, commish, I need a permit to build a deck. And the zoning commissioner says, okay, Mr. Kirshner, I'll issue you a permit, but only if you'll pay me $1,000. I want a little taste for myself. That is the crime of soliciting a bribe, plain and simple. It's a government official conditioning an official act on getting a personal benefit, $1,000 in exchange for a permit. That's the same thing Donald Trump did. What he did was he held on to congressionally appropriated money, and instead of giving it to President Zelensky, which is what Congress had directed, he said, I want a little taste for myself. I want a little something from you, President Zelensky, and what I want is unfair, unlawful help in the upcoming presidential election by you bad-mouthing my opponent, Joe Biden. So what happens ordinarily when you have evidence of presidential crimes, or when you have evidence of crimes being committed by any members of the cabinet or anybody in the executive branch? An investigation is launched. A criminal investigation is initiated, conducted most typically by the FBI, which is part of the Department of Justice, and the FBI, which falls under the Attorney General. Here's the problem. In that phone call with President Zelensky, What did Donald Trump tell President Zelensky to do to kind of help further this scheme, this illegal quid pro quo of I'll give you the defense funds only if you will dirty up my political rival? President Trump said to President Zelensky, talk to my lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, and talk to my man, Bill Barr. I'm obviously paraphrasing, right? So once Trump said, I want to do this dirty deal with you, President Zelensky, or I want you to do it for me, talk to my man, Bill Barr, that put Bill Barr smack in the middle of what sure looks like a criminal conspiracy. So what should Bill Barr have done when that information came to him as the Attorney General? Well, now he's got a conflict, a direct conflict, because the president said, I want you to talk to Bill Barr to help further this dirty deal. So only one of two things could have been true at that point, right? Either Bill Barr knew that the president was going to tell President Zelensky to reach out to him so he could help in this dirty deal. And if Bill Barr knew it, well, then he is complicit. He's a co-conspirator. He's criminally liable for what the president is trying to pull off. Or Bill Barr didn't know anything about it. And the president was basically lying when he was telling President Zelensky that Bill Barr can help make this thing happen. Either way, Bill Barr absolutely was conflicted out of dealing with any of this. Did Bill Barr recuse himself? Did he recognize the conflict? Did he say, as a good, honest, ethical Attorney General, I must withdraw from any consideration in this matter and give it to others in the Department of Justice? No. What Bill Barr did was he instantly cleared and absolved the president of any wrongdoing, and he just moved on to the next matter he had to handle as Attorney General. That highlights the flaw of having a corrupt president and a corrupt Attorney General, because there is nobody who can investigate wrongdoing by a president, crimes by a president, crimes or corruption by cabinet members who are serving under that president. Bill Barr and Donald Trump in combination are marching us toward the end of our republic if we let them. And I will say, when I saw Bill Barr direct Department of Justice attorneys to argue in an appellate argument in the Second Circuit some months ago that the president actually could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and not be arrested and not be prosecuted for it, when I heard Department of Justice attorneys make that argument, I think to the shock of the judges who were sitting and hearing that argument, my heart broke. It broke for the Department of Justice. It broke for the American people that Department of Justice employees and lawyers and prosecutors are there to serve. And it further cemented in my mind the notion that this country cannot endure or endorse the corrupt tandem of Donald Trump and Bill Barr. The way to address it at this point, it looks like we are beyond impeachment. There are many who have said Bill Barr ought to be impeached, and I agree with that sentiment. In this day and age of the coronavirus sort of consuming all of our time and our attention, our concern, and that's where our hearts are day in and day out. It's with the victims, the people who are sick, the people who are struggling, the people who have been lost to this virus, and the enormous challenges we have ahead of us to move through this period of a national health crisis. It may not be feasible that the House of Representatives can launch another impeachment hearing, one of Bill Barr, although he so richly has earned the right to be impeached. I don't know that that will happen. What will happen is Donald Trump will be voted out by a landslide, I predict, in November, and then when a new president is sworn in January, a law-abiding president, and when that law-abiding president appoints an attorney general who is actually a law-enforcing attorney general, it will be up to that attorney general heading up that Department of Justice to actually investigate and hold accountable all of the politicians that have been committing crime in plain sight, whether they are the elected politicians, the appointed politicians, the former presidents, the former VPs, the former president's family members. They will all need to be investigated fairly, in a nonpartisan way, but in an aggressive way, because there can be no justice without accountability for all of the wrong that has been done to the American people and to our country by Donald Trump and his lackeys. There can be no justice without accountability. There should be no bygones be bygones, no turning the other cheek, no put this long national nightmare behind us by pardoning people. There needs to be accountability, because it's only with accountability that we can hope to get to justice. And I've been saying for a couple of years now, and I believe it to my core, justice is coming. So come January, there will need to be something that I have been calling the Trump Crimes Commission, a truly nonpartisan commission to dig into, investigate, and if the evidence dictates it, prosecute all of today's wrongdoers. I hope everybody stays safe. I hope everybody stays virus-free, and together we're going to move through this period of really a difficult health crisis that we're facing. I'll see you all again soon, folks.